My name is Terry Womack, and I have an extremely very important message for us as a black race here in America. And the message is called Hanging by a Thread. But before I deliver this message to you, there's something that I want to say to my president, Barack Obama, to also the queen of TV, Oprah Winfrey, and our civil rights leader, Jesse Jackson. There's a phrase that we use here in America as a black race, and it is called that Black Lives Matter. Now, before I say anything else, I want to let it be known for sure that I know without a doubt that there's a lot of us as blacks in America that black lives truly matter. But evidently to some of us, black lives do not matter. 99% of the homicides committed on blacks in America are by blacks. Police officers in a year's time kill between 10 and 15 of our young black men. Now, let's make this clear. Some of them are definitely not justifiable, and some of them are justifiable. But the point that I want to make is that when the police kill one of us, we can march to the north, to the south, to the east, and to the west by the thousands. We can turn over police cars and break out windows and tear up our neighborhoods. But yet here in Chicago every year, 500 to 600 young black men have been killed by young black men. Right here in our own city in Memphis, Tennessee, anywhere from 150 to 200 young black men are being killed every year. That's not talking about Chicago, Detroit, Compton, and all the cities. If you put it all together in a year's time, anywhere between 1,000 and 1,800 young black men are being killed by blacks. But we say that Black Lives Matter. 99% of the drugs sold in the black community are by blacks. 99% of the abuse, rape, and murder on our black women are by blacks. But we say that Black Lives Matter. We have one of the largest dropout rates in the United States of America among any race in America, among our young black men. Can you imagine the size how big Detroit is? Hundreds and thousands of young black men are in Detroit, Michigan. This is a fact, people. 50 to 60% of young black men has dropped out of school in Detroit, Michigan. Right here in your own city, they're dropping out by the hundreds, and that's not talking about the rest of the cities in the United States of America. But we say that Black Lives Matter. We have more young black men in the penitentiary, in the juvenile detention, and going to the cemetery than any race in America. But we say that Black Lives Matter. There is no race of women in America that you can go anywhere from New York, Chicago, Detroit, Memphis, and all over the United States. 60% of the time, all you see is young black women with their babies. Where is the black man that have abandoned the black women and the black children? But we say that Black Lives Matter. But there is a ray of hope. To every problem, there is a solution, and to every solution, there is a problem. Luke 18:27 says, the things which are impossible with man are possible with God. Hosea 4:6 says, for my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge, meaning without the wisdom and the knowledge of the word of God. Psalms 19:7-9 said the word of God transforms the soul. It transforms a lost man and a lost woman and a lost child to a saved child and a saved woman and a saved man. if there's going to be any hope, it's going to take the word of God. Man, all these years have been given temporary solution, but time has shown from the beginning of time to now, for without God, John 15:5, he says we can do nothing. So my message, once again, I like to thank God, for all the glory belongs to him, for making it possible for us to be able to come together here in unity for such a worthy cause. And the message again is called Hanging by a Thread. Theft, rape, murder, adultery, Israel was destroying themselves like black people today. A time comes when you can no longer blame your problems on other people. And like the children of Israel and like black people today, we have met the enemy, and he is us. Foreign enemies are no longer in view. The enemy is Israel itself, like black people today. Israel, they make ugly portraits. These last 5 chapters, pointless and violence. It begins with a son stealing from his mother and end with parents agreeing to let their daughter be kidnapped. In between are homosexual, heterosexual, gang rape, murder, adultery, armed robbery, and mass slaughter. No enemy does all this. Israel do it to each other, like black people today. Clearly the exalted nation of Israel, God's chosen people, have lost all sense of direction, like black people today. The first 16 chapters of Judges in the Bible tells of a repeated enemy invasion that moved Israel to call out to God. Hearing his people, God would send a freedom fighter to save them. In the last 5 chapters, by contrast, God sends no freedom fighter. No military leader could rescue them from themselves. These chapters instead repeat them solemn words. In those days, there was no king in Israel. All the people did what was right in their own eyes. Like black people today, everybody just doing their own little thing. There's no unity amongst us. All the people did what was right in their own eyes may not sound very negative in our area, which places high value on individualism and personal freedom. But God prizes something more. Black people, what God is saying to us is that we don't need a freedom fighter. We don't need a deliverer. God says I prize something more for you. It's called unity. God, he wants his people united in love for him and each other. God's law has bound his people to a common worship in the tabernacle and to a common standard of caring for each other. For this the Israelites substitute do as you please religion in a fractious society where each family or group fought for his own rights alone, like black people today. Everybody's in their own separate little groups. Everybody just doing their own little thing. There's no unity amongst us. By the end of Judges in the Bible, Israel are reduced to fighting themselves, like black people today. They have adopted their enemy custom, like black people today. In other words, what it's simply saying is that what our oppressors were doing to us, rob, rape, and murder, now yet today as black people, we have adopted their custom. We're doing it to ourselves. Israel, they worship idols. They are sexually immoral. They lack respect for parents. They cannot remember the pattern of life God had set out. It is hard to say by the end of Judges in the Bible, why should God save Israel from their enemies? It is hard to say, rather, if Israel are the least bit different from their enemies. Israel has become, in fact, its own worst enemy, like black people today. Black people, do our trouble come more from our own circumstances or from our own internal weaknesses? What kind of help do we need from God as black people? It is called wisdom. How do we get wisdom in order to come together with unity? Listen. It is called the supreme gift of wisdom. You must first learn to listen, something this young black generation will not do. It is hard to tell somebody something that already think they know everything. Proverbs in the Bible judges every thought or actions by one standard. Is this wise? The word wisdom brings up a picture of a gray-headed old man muttering obscure philosophy maximum. And simply what it's saying is that when we hear the word wisdom, we automatically think it has to be somebody old or with gray hair. But that's not true. But that is almost the opposite of what proverb mean by the word wisdom. Wisdom is above all practical and down to earth. Young people, I'll say it again, young people as well as old can and should have it. Wisdom teaches you how to live. It combines understanding with discipline. The kind of discipline an athlete needs in training. It also adds a healthy dose of good common sense, except that common sense isn't and never has been common. Black people, what God is saying to us is that we don't need a Harvard or Yale degree to have wisdom. You don't have to be an extra special, intelligent human being to have wisdom. He said all you need is basic common sense. Can you imagine that? To have wisdom. Basic common sense. How do you become a wise person? You must first begin to listen. Wisdom is freely available to those who will stop talking and start paying attention to God, His words, to parents, and to wise counselors. Anybody, I'll say it again, anybody can become wise, Proverbs says. Wisdom is not reserved for the brilliant elite. And simply what it's saying is that wisdom is not set aside for somebody extra special intelligent or somebody black or somebody white. Anybody can have it, and they should. But becoming wise requires self-discipline. To study and to humbly seek wisdom at every opportunity. Black men, think over the last few years of our lives. To whom do we listen to? Bringing this message to a conclusion, I'd like to read a verse out of 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 11 in the Bible. When I was a child, I spoke as a child. I understood as a child. I thought as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things. Black man, it's time for you to wake up and to be a man. And when you wake up and be a man, it's time for you to start to learn to love one another. And when you wake up and be a man and start to learn to love one another, God wants you to take that same love and to love all men.